this is the last will and testament of workout. Being of dubious sanity. I'm kidding. When I finished my degree, I found myself slightly overweight, shall we say. And in the period that I had before I found a job, I decided just to take it off. So I started going out and running maybe 2 miles at a time, and thought I was doing really good when I worked that up to maybe 3 miles and stuff like that. And all the fat was disappearing, you know, my waistline was coming in, and it just builds up and builds up. You know, once you've done 2 miles, you think, can I do 3 miles? Can I do 4 miles? And then you end up thinking, well, you know, if I can do this distance, then I can do a 10k race. So it's in a 10k race, and if you can do a 10k race, then you can do a half marathon. So it's not as though you ever take a, you know, you sit down one day and you say, you know, I'm going to take my running seriously. It's something that just seems to happen to you as time goes by. I think you could say, though, that when you sit down and you contemplate running 95 miles across, you know, what's basically a trail, I think you possibly could say that that's involves some serious thought and consideration. So when did I start taking my running seriously? I started taking my running seriously when I sat down with the application form for the West Highland Way. I'm one of these people that needs a goal to go for. I can't just keep on, you know, going over the same steps, same manoeuvres, same schedules even. So this year, I was slightly bored with it. I was thinking, what else can I do? I'd heard about the race. I'd been on the website maybe 4 or 5 times. And I thought, well, if they can do it, why can't I? Training hasn't gone particularly well the last couple of weeks. The last time I actually ran was 10, 11 days ago. Went out and did what should have been a fairly easy 8-mile run, and it was a fairly easy 8-mile run. The only problem was the entire time I had this screaming pain in my Achilles tendons, the right being much worse than the left, I should say, not trying to build it up too much, which turns out to be Achilles tendonitis. The kind of last preparation for the race has been completely blown out of the water. I should have been doing, as I said, 25 miles last week. I managed 8. I still can't see how I'm going to run 95 miles, especially not now. But then again, the one thing I can't stand is taking on a challenge and not completing it. And I can be a stubborn individual. Pretty soon after leaving Mulgai, I realised that the headlamp that I'd bought really wasn't up to the job. We had to take it slow. I thought I was going slow enough. Be very careful about where I put my feet. Through Muddock Park was quite lucky because there's a couple of nasty areas in there, which thank God it didn't hit.
Way.
But then you get into the area where you're heading down towards Dungoyne, and then from Dungoyne on to Glengoyne. And at Dungoyne, I went over on the left ankle first, and I'd done that before, and I don't know whether it's stronger as a consequence of that. You know, it's managed to build itself up, because with that one you just kind of take a couple of hobbled steps and then get back into your running again. Then I went over on the right, and this one felt quite sore, but again you just kind of walk it off for a wee bit and then you get back into your run again. Unfortunately, the second time it went over, and even though I was listening to my MP3 player at the time, I heard a crack, and there was a really sharp, intense pain went right up my leg through it. Again, tried to walk it off, but this time it was a much different kind of pain, much more intense, more lingering, etc. And that, coupled with the noise that come off it, put into my mind that you've actually done something here. This isn't just, you've gone over in your ankle and you've maybe given a wee sprain. Now you've actually done something now. Stage 1. It's been okay. Running in the dark, very difficult. Especially when my light isn't particularly good. Probably should have practiced with it, didn't. So there we go. Been over on both ankles. The one on the right went over on twice. The last time I went over on it, there was a crack. It's now swelling up, and luckily enough I've got some super hard drugs with me, so hopefully we'll still get through to the end. I'm having a bit of problem lifting my feet occasionally. I don't know if that's an Achilles tendon problem or not. I've caught my feet twice, which doesn't help. Everything kind of goes. The tendons go, the swollen ankle goes at that point, and then the last time I did it on a tree route, it was almost like my hamstring was going to cramp at the same time. But apart from that, everything's going swimmingly. This is good weather for it. It's not too hot. Not too cold. There's a slight breeze across the top of Connaught Hill. Even that was just nice. It was refreshing more than anything else. If it continues like this, then it can't complain. The only thing is, with the amount of rain that we've had just now, further on is probably going to be drenched. That could cause a problem. So long as I was careful, I was putting my feet in the right places, looking out for the nasty stuff, the loose rocks, etc., the tree roots. It was fine. I was actually overtaking people, which I couldn't understand. Why are these people going so slow? I've got a lump sticking out. You're almost going along wanting to, say that to them as you go past. You realise I've got a lump sticking out my ankle and I'm overtaking you. I quite like the section between Balmaha and Inversnaid. There's some fantastic views along there. I mean, absolutely stunning. And I think that kind of helped my mood, especially when you see that nice big white building with Inversnaid Hotel written on it. 34 in, we're just over a third of the way through. I'm slow, I'm going to be slow. Even at that point I knew 24 hours wasn't on anymore. There just wasn't a chance. But we could still complete it. It's not as though I've been pushing it. I mean, when I did the Highland Flying, I was here in 6.5 hours. This time I'm here in 8 hours. I'm an hour and a half fresher, if you like. The problem is that if I let the time pass too much, then I start hitting just kind of tired sleep fatigue, sleep deprivation at the other end. So at some point I may have to attempt to put a push in, and that could be the thing that just finishes the whole thing off. It was daylight by that point, which again kind of lifts your spirits. You're no longer running in dark. You're not relying on a crappy headlamp. Yeah, I'm reasonably happy. Speak to me after we do the next bit. The next bit's about hate. And yeah, I hated it once again. Went into one of my lulls, one of my depressions, as I've now called it, during it. No energy, no positive outlook to the race at all.
slightly dizzy in the head, vision a wee bit off as well for some strange reason. This time that the washed out feeling that I got between here and Derry Darragh hit me out there, which was not good considering the footing is that bad. A wee bit scary at times, you know, when you're feeling dizzy and you've got 20 feet of rock to go down. But we got through it, again, very, very slowly. But then everybody says that about that stage. Everybody comes to that other end, up the top of the loch, looks at the watch and goes, you know, what happened in the last 2 hours? I've only covered 4 or 5 miles. How did it take me 2 hours? And it's just because you can't get up a decent pace. We'll do it. It's going to be slow again, saying the same thing over and over. But nah, it's doable. We'll pick ourselves up, we'll go on with it. It's just energy levels. West Highland Way runners, I'll tell you, that you go through highs and lows, and they think it's associated with energy levels. That sometimes you've just got the energy within you, sometimes you're losing it, and that lack of energy doesn't just affect you physically, it affects you mentally. And they say, and I now know, that all you've got to do is just keep on going. If you keep on pushing yourself through those, there will come a point where you'll start up again. And that's what happened. I had my bad time in Brisnaid to Benglass, got some food on, had a chat with some people, got lifted, off we go again towards Derry Darragh.
I suppose Mark would claim that I'm actually really responsible for this, because I started running marathons about 3 or 4 years ago, and Mark picked up with that, and he ran Inverness a couple of years back, and I ran it with him, and he's just taken it on to the next level really. He's just decided that marathons aren't long enough for him, and he's decided that ultras and obviously the West Highland Way was his next big target. I think his preparations went really well. He did the 53-mile race, the Highland Fling earlier on, and apparently that went very well. I couldn't come up and see him in that. The only time I actually did get worried was after the first leg today, when he obviously went over and damaged his ankle, and his ankle was quite a pronounced swelling on it, but that's went down quite a bit now. And I ran a little bit of the leg before the last one with him, and he's got a lot of determination to finish it. He really is determined to finish this, so I think if he's going to have to drag himself over the line crawling, he is going to do it today.
I bumped into one of the legends of the West Highland Way race, Jim Drummond, get into a conversation with him and thought, I'll just stay here. I'll just go along and I'll do this section with Jim. And Jim is filled with knowledge and filled with funny stories. So by the time I got to Derry Darragh, I was in cloud 9. You know, this is easy. We're going to do fine here. Derry Darragh through to Tyndrum is a section I like. Again, stunning views. The mountains just surround you. You've got Bogle Glen and the forests in there. For some reason, an awful lot of people don't like that forest section. I do. I think it's just the undulations they don't like, but I love being in that forest. And the birds. I actually turned off my MP3 player because the birds were tweeting and twittering all around, and I turned it off just so I could listen to them as going along. And then you've got the streams and the babbling brooks and stuff like that. It was just idyllic. The kind of other support team, because of the two, they'd been quite concerned, I think, about my state when they'd left me at what must have been about 7 o'clock that morning, and we're now about 2:30 in the afternoon. So as I got about halfway from the 82 crossing to Tyndrum, I met one of that support team, Paul Walker, who had come out to meet me just so that he was sure everything was okay. We just quite happily made our way in, taking our time into Tyndrum. Had a nice long stop there. I'm going to take some painkillers, not for my ankle anymore. I'm going to take some painkillers for my feet, for my calves, for my knees, and for my thighs. It did kind of cross my mind at that point, you know, are you actually doing the sensible thing here? But then you think, well, we've done 53. There's only 42 left to do, you know. And you've come 48 miles on it so far, and there's only 42 left. Well, if you can do 48, you can do 42, can't you? Sent off towards Bridge of Orchy, and then I got caught up by a guy I know called Tim Downey, who was meant to be support for Jim Drummond, but Jim Drummond had partnered up with another runner and decided he didn't need anybody. So Tim, being the lunatic that he is, decided he would go for a wee run and decided to catch me up, and he would just run with me into Bridge of Orchy. So it was like, it turned into a training run, if you like. You know, we were just running along as we had done so many times before, having a conversation, him listening to me moaning and me listening to his lunatic ideas about what he's going to do in the future. And when we got into Bridge of Orchy, people said, that's an amazing time you just set. That's actually the fastest section that you've done, the whole race. That's weird because, you know, I'm in agony. We're at about 59 miles, we're at Bridge of Orchy. That's probably the easiest stretch of the whole thing, so I'm told. I started off by myself, but Tim Downey, being the sick individual that he is, decided he wanted to put in a few miles, a bit of a training run today, so he caught me up and then ran in with me, and has now decided that, oh, what the hell, he'll just run up to King's House with us.
So far he's actually not too bad. He seemed quite down at River Dennon, but when he came in here, his mood was quite upbeat. I was a wee bit apprehensive at first because it is a long way and you've got to do a lot of training, and he has been working hard at his training, but it's quite scary, especially when there's running at night time. You're doing well, Mark. Not long to go. What are you wanting to wear?
I am brew 30. Oh, what did she ask for?
We'll just be making sure that he knows where he is, making sure he's been drinking. We're just making sure he's drinking plenty, eating, taking all the supplements that he needs to help him keep him going. So we've just really got to keep an eye on him that way. Keep an eye on his ankle. His ankle's still giving him a bit of bother, but at the moment he's doing okay. I'm proud of him. He's done well. He's very focused.
The first thing you do after you leave Bridge of Orchy is you climb a hill, which is fine. I can climb a hill. Yes, it hurts like hell, but I can climb a hill. But then you come down the other side, and running downhill hurts more than running uphill. And then you hit tarmac, and you would think that tarmac would be better. You'd be able to run faster on tarmac than normally you would. But coming off the trails after so many miles, tarmac just kills you. My ankle, of course, hurt as soon as it hit something more solid than the trail. At least the other areas of the West Highland Way, there's a certain amount of give in them, even where it is kind of shingly rock, etc. The tarmac, it was just a nightmare, and I had to drop into a walk after about a mile of that. And then we got up onto the moor, and quite honestly there wasn't much of the moor I could run on, because I was now, not also was I getting pain on this side, I was also getting pains in the instep on this side, you know, shooting pains. And anytime I hit anything sharp or lumpy in any way, I was getting this shooting pain up from the instep. When we eventually made our way to Blackrock, me in quite a bit of pain and eventually shivering quite badly by the time I got into the checkpoint. I was in quite a mess. If the support team hadn't kind of G'd me up a wee bit, got behind me and, you know, convinced me that I did have it within me, there's a good chance I might have pulled out at that point. I think I'm going to take a painkiller. Tim says an awful lot of them are just going to walk from this point on. But not for 37 and a half hours now. We've covered to this point 71 miles.
We went to put his trousers on. Oh, right.
My ankle's throbbing, my knees are done. Even my insteps are agony. Are we going to use the everybody's got 24 miles in them phrase? I don't think I'm the best company just now. I'm in one of my troughs at present. Double staircase itself is a kind of zigzagging. It is quite inclined. It's not quite as flat as people tell you. It's a quite inclined zigzagging part. You have to get there first. And getting up that initial part of the hill to the actual staircase is nastier than the staircase itself. What is about 10 to 15 times worse is the trail from the top of that down into Kinloch Leaving. Me and Kenny got up over the top of it just as the sun started to dip, rather picturesquely behind the mountains that surrounded Kinloch Leaving. And when we actually took a second and we looked at it, we thought, oh, isn't that really nice? And isn't that amazing? There's no wind here and stuff like this. And then the light just goes like that and it's gone. Sunset that night was around 20 past 10. At 12 o'clock, we were still on this path that was meant to be only 4 miles long, wondering what the hell had happened to Kinloch Leaving because we could no longer see it. And it had only been there when we come across the hill. And there's no light at all. Kenny's got his hand torch and I've got this headlamp. And I'm really, really tired. I ache. I mean, I ache like I probably haven't hurt before. And I just want to get it over with. And I'm starting to do stupid things like starting to run. Somehow I managed to get some smarts from somewhere. And I started to think that maybe the idea here is to do your best to get to Kinloch Leaving and then take a break. Maybe get some sleep because your head's wasted. And then set off, in daylight. So we eventually found our way into Kinloch Leaving. I think it was just before 1 o'clock. And my support team, in attempting to help me, had asked somebody who was in the health centre for some tubie grip. Unfortunately, the person they'd chosen to ask was the race doctor, who had it perfectly within his power to take me out of the race if he decided that the injury was bad enough. So I was less than happy with my support team at that point, even though now I understand they were only doing what they thought was best, and they were only doing what they thought would get me through to the end. All I could think of was 14 miles from the end, and he's going to take me out of the race. So we had a hairy examination where I lied as much as possible to the doctor about how bad my ankle was, and he didn't believe a single word that I was telling him.
Did that hurt you like hell?
Not like hell, no.
But it's pretty still.
It's smart still.
Okay.
But luckily enough, he was a runner himself. He was a bloke, and he fully realised that, I'd come so far. I'd been able to put up with it so far. There was only 14 miles to the end, and so long as I took that 3 hours and he could have a look at it before I left, he was quite happy for me to continue.
It's 5 miles into his run, that's 80 miles ago. He twisted his ankle and then twisted it again a bit further on. He's now got very substantial swelling over the outside of the ankle, which is probably a ligamentous, but he is tender over his lower fibula. And I'm going to have another look at him once he's had a few hours kip and a couple of applications of ice, and we'll take it from there. But he's very keen to be going on his way at some point, and at this point I think that will be an okay thing to do.
So we are good to go. So if we get up about 4:30 when it's daylight, set off, still a damn good chance we can make it before the end of the race.
The race originated from a challenge in 1985 between Duncan Watson and Bobby Shields. They were two of the top 12 runners of Scotland at the time, and had both made claims to have run the route in certain times. After a bit of to and froing, Duncan made contact with Bobby and suggested that he turn up at Milngavie railway station on a certain date at 3 in the morning and they would settle once and for all who was the quickest. And as Duncan put it, blow me, he turned up. So the challenge was formed and they set off. They both ended their differences over Rannoch Moor and shook hands and ran in together, encouraged each other. They gained each other's respect by that time. The next again year they decided to invite other like-minded people, and it just developed from there.
I feel clear in the head, adrenaline's back up, which it wasn't last night when I came in. Ankle feels exactly the same as it was when we came in, but now I've got my grip on it. Should be okay.
My legs thought it was finished. I've decided to go into stiff and sore mode. We now need to get them working again. That's brilliant.
Anything else that can patch up? What about the other one? The other foot one?
Nah, I should be fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, not at all, not at all.
Situation is that in 12 minutes time we're back out on the road. It gives us a maximum of 7 hours to get to Fort William, but at least it's daylight now so we can actually move. It's allowing. We might still make it, we might not. We left Kinlochleven about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I knew that Jim Drummond was just ahead of us because Jim had been walking an awful lot, so in the 3 hours that I'd spent with in Kinlochleven, convincing the doctor that I could continue and stuff like that, he'd managed to catch up, but I knew he was just ahead. So me and Paul Walker set off in hot pursuit, and he wasn't that far ahead of us at all. We actually overtook him climbing the hill out of Kinlochleven, and there was 2 other people with him, 2 other racers, so I'd picked up 3 places already. I wasn't last. When we got down in towards Lundarver, into the kind of forest area, it was at that point I was really, really glad that we hadn't even attempted to do it in the dark, because some of the footing in that area was just abysmal, and I would have done myself a mischief. If I haven't already done myself a mischief, but I would have really done myself a mischief if I'd attempted that one in the dark. And it was at that point that the checkpoint guys, because when you come in the checkpoint you've got to say I'm number 49 and they mark you off, and the checkpoint guy says, all right, so you're the guy that pulled out. What?
It's going fine till I found out that I'd actually pulled out apart. Rumours of my demise have been rather exaggerated, I'm afraid.
I haven't pulled out. Who said I pulled out? I'd advise you to go on the phone and check with somebody and get somebody told that 49 has most definitely not pulled out.
It's going fine. It's sore. I got another pain. I think it's due to the tube grip that the doctor put on back at Kinlochleven. So we've taken that off. It's only 10k to go. Hopefully we'll be having breakfast maybe about 10 o'clock.
From Lundarver, you head into the forest areas around Glen Nevis, and there's an awful lot of climbing in there, and my thighs were just wasted. They were just absolutely wasted. The forest seemed to go on forever, because Paul Walker again had been doing the maps, I think, and he said, well, once we get to the other side of the forest, there's only 4 miles left. And that was probably the wrong thing to say to me, because I kept on looking for it. All right, the trees are thinning out here, this is the end of the forest. No, there's another bit of it just round the corner. But we got there. It is beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a lovely town, Fort William. It's surrounded by fantastic scenery. But when all you want is your bed and something to eat and to be able to stop moving, then it means nothing to you. It means absolutely nothing. But we eventually got down onto the road, the last mile and a half, you're actually going along pavement. It's just got a kind of surreal feeling to it, because you've been through these areas where there's absolutely nothing. No street lights, anything, you know, for miles. Tens of miles in some instances. And then all of a sudden you're on a pavement and you're heading back into Fort William. And it's kind of, whoa, this isn't the way this should be ending, is it? This should be something bigger and, you know. But we decided to go into a run at that point. I don't know, I mean, it's total nonsense, of course, because we'd walked so much yet, but it just felt right that right at the end of it, for the last 300 yards, you've got to run. We got into Fort William, we got into the thing, and I announced that 49 was finishing, or as he had now apparently been christened, the one with the ankle. Very few people will actually do this, so obviously I'm kind of elated. At the same time, I'm kind of in a living hell present of pain. So it's a wee bit of a mixed bag. The thing that actually made me want to go on and continue and see how far I could get was the fact that I tied up so many other people's lives into this. And I thought, there's no way you can do that. There's no way you can bring these people here and then just pull out of it after 12 miles. We went on, and obviously I'm glad that we did. You know, I did it, and yeah, you know, even more, you know, I did it with a fractured ankle, and I kind of knew that it was more serious than I was letting on to other people. Still disappointed with my time, because I had those 3 hours sleep. You know, that would have been 29 and a half hours if I hadn't slept. And like I say, if I could have got myself up into a run a few times earlier, maybe I'd taken that half hour off as well. I think a 24 or a 25, certainly a 26 would have been in me if it hadn't been from the ankle. But yeah, it was good. As far as big, involved, dare we say dangerous events, I'm a wee bit reticent to actually say this, just in case this forces me to actually go through with it. I have in the back of my mind been thinking about the Santiago de Compostela road, the Jacobin pilgrimage route from just over the French border through the north of Spain to Santiago on the west coast of Spain. It's about 500 miles. The beginning part of it goes through the Pyrenees. Should be lovely. Get it in the right time of year. Should be a fantastic time. How exactly you do 500 miles, I'm not too sure. Obviously, we're not going to do it in one go. I can assure you of that, but maybe in the future.